Hit that like, smash subscribe for all future notifications here at the Do Me a Favor podcast. Whether you're in recovery, have a loved one in recovery, valuable information, good laughs, and a couple of tear-jerking moments right after this.
Mr. Don, it's nice to see you again, my friend.
It's always nice to see you. Always is.
So I know you're a very busy man, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down. And
It's a great opportunity. Really, anytime sitting down with you is just a pleasure. But in hoping that we can kind of get a message out to some people and stuff, I like to just try to do my part. And it's a real honor to meet everybody and to be able to, whether it be electronically or in person. It's always great.
So, in the spirit of what we do here, do us a favor.
Yeah.
Tell us how we got here. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Well, I am a Greenville native, but to really go back, I was born in Charleston. I had a twin sister. We were adopted from birth. I was born as baby Keith. She was baby Karen. We were adopted by a couple that had been trying to have children since my dad got back from World War II. It's funny, I've read the letters that my mother had written from 52 on, and I was born in 1955, which puts me at just over 70 now.
Wow.
But, so I've seen a lot of it, but they were really astounding people, normal in many ways, country in a way, but at the same time very sophisticated. My dad was an engineer, architect, and worked with his brothers to form Sealy Construction Company, which is here in Greenville. But anyway, we were adopted, moved right here. He had a successful construction business, separated from the brothers, but always was close. My mother was from Pickens, and you notice that I call them my mother and my father because that's really what they were. They're maybe not my biologicals, but I've never had any interest other than wishing my biologicals well. I mean, I happen to know for some odd reason that my father was a German sailor, and being Charleston, being a large port and so forth, I kind of assumed I may know the kind of work my mom, my biological did, if you know what I mean. But, that's fine. That doesn't matter. I was raised by my parents, Wallace and Bertha Sealy. And they always told us, adoption was presented as that picked us. They chose us. So they managed to find a way to express it rather than making us feel like my twin sister and myself, rather than feeling like outsiders or there was something weird about us, that we were chosen, not just, Merry Christmas as a, result of a, nice evening one time, so to speak. And anyway, that was always very, I liked that. I think in a way, both my parents were a little more sophisticated than a lot of the people were that you would expect being raised in a house that didn't even have an inside bathroom.
Yeah.
But my dad did serve along with my other uncles. All served in World War II. It was a 5-star family. All 5 brothers went off and served and made it back. My dad liberated my uncle from Stalag Luft 1, which was where they held. He'd been in POW since '43 when he was shot down over Paris. And my dad actually got to liberate him.
Wow.
Which was cool. My grandmother picked up a lot of German because in trying to write back and forth, I mean, they did, but they had to write carefully and so forth and understand what the German censors would read and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
anyway, Yeah, I like that. Had a great childhood until the age of 3. Both my sister and I came down with strep throat, and that sounds like nothing now. But in the 50s, you got to understand this is 10 years after World War II, where penicillin had only really just been introduced. Other than that, it was sulfa drugs or nothing. And so there were all kinds of new antibiotics beginning to come out. We both took one called chloromycetin, which actually is still used in some third world countries. And it unfortunately it killed my sister, but not me.
Damn.
So that was at age 4 we lost her. But all the time that my parents had spent at Duke, which was about a year really, at Duke Medical Center trying to see what could be done, I rotated between my uncles and relatives. And so it was great. I got to spend a lot of my childhood growing up on an actual farm. You wanted eggs for breakfast? Fine. You knew where to find them. Under a chicken. you know. And there are a lot of really beautiful memories of that time for me. It was really, really
Things
great.
were simple.
Yeah, things were simple. It was an interesting time. I'm very visually oriented, which you might guess by my profession, and I even remember. I can remember when I was first adopted, visually. I know it's weird, but I actually remember. Who knows how early it was in my adoption, but I remember my father carrying me in his arms, and we were walking. He was walking in the den. It was at night, looking outside, and he had built the house that year, 1955, and they had floodlights. He had floodlights on the ground and stuff, and I can still remember what that looked like. And I know from certain other things that my memories were accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So I have glimpses of memories back to when I was not even a full year old, because I was 6 months old when I was brought home, which is unusual. But again, they're visual memories.
Yeah.
You know.
So after your sister's passing, and I take it you have a very close-knit family, what was your education like?
Well, that was actually that's. I've always maintained that I have no enemies, but there's one person in my life that I do not forgive, and I will never forgive, and that is my first grade teacher. I attended John Knox Presbyterian Church's kindergarten, and it was a 2-year thing. It was not because they held me back, but it was 2 years, and I watched them build the elementary school that would be the school I would go to. I could not wait. I could not. I was dying. I wanted to go up there. I remember standing on the bookcase so I could look out the window because we were in a basement, watching the construction of that building, and then the next year, I saw those first students all, it was like a movie, just all walking up a hill with their books and going to school. Oh, God, I wanted to be there. I really wanted to just, my mother had given me a love of science and stuff like that already, my dad of engineering, and I could not wait to be there. And the sadist that they put in that school, that was my first year teacher, she literally beat any love of the education system out of me, and any hope of ever being able to fit into it. I really say that that I was so damaged by her, and then a succession of several others, but mainly her, because I had some loving, wonderful teachers too.
Mm-hmm.
But it was too late. I had been so abused by her. I mean, I remember staying after school one day because she didn't like the way I made the letter J. And of course, remember, we used that elementary school paper with the
Yeah.
lines and the, all that stuff. So, she made me do a J. I would do the little hook and then the cross. Nope, wrong. And I think I marched that cross piece along that J hook from the top all the way off. I mean, all the way to the end of it. Nope, wrong. Do it again. Wrong. Do it again. Wrong. Finally, I just did the J hook, and over to the side, I just did a slash. I said, "Well, how's that?" And she slapped the crap out of me.
Mm.
And that's back when they could do that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And of course, she told my mother I was misbehaving and rude and disrespectful. I never understood why she behaved that way. And it wasn't just to me. I mean, it was to a number of the other students.
Yeah.
But, basically, I did not enjoy learning until I got to high school, got into drama class, and that was the beginning of being able to love something. I barely scraped out of high school with like a 1.86 average. I mean, it was like 1 point lower, and I would not have graduated.
Yeah.
So it was, to say that it was traumatic,
Yeah.
yeah, it was. It was life changing. I always say if it hadn't been for my first grade teacher, I'd probably be a retired surgeon right now.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah, because there's no doubt you're extremely intelligent.
Well, I appreciate see that or a hell of an actor.
So let me
totally
ask
like
you
drama.
this: did drinking take place when you were in high school at all, or?
Well, interestingly enough, I was class of '73.
Mm-hmm.
Most people listening probably hadn't even been born yet. I'm sure, but in late 1972, I lost both of my parents, and it was my dad died of liver disease, but it was not due to drinking. He had actually had a problem during his enlistment between college and his getting his second lieutenant bars and stuff. He got very sick, and it was just some unknown liver disease. And anyway, it did recur. He was not a heavy drinker. I mean, I remember we would go out to a restaurant, and sometimes he would have a Heineken at a fancy restaurant, and that would be it. I'm not saying that they never drank at all. My mother, very little. She would like have a little glass of some kind of cheap port and put a half teaspoon of sugar in it to make it palatable. And so they were not drinkers at all, really. But my dad had been hospitalized. It was approaching 6 months, and he was really getting worse.
How old were you?
Well, I was, going on 18, I guess. 17 going on. Yeah, I was 17. And on my my mother, I didn't realize it, but she basically was bipolar, but it was caused because of radiation. She had had a bad thyroid, and they put implants in there, and it completely destroyed it. They went too far. And so she had to take thyroid meds, and that was back that was from the late 50s. And they were not really, you've got to remember that by the time that happened to her, my dad had just been 5 years back from, managing or working with some of the atomic testing in Nevada on a thing called Project Desert Rock. And this is the famous series of nuclear tests, the first of which was to detonate an atomic bomb and then to march infantry through ground zero 1 hour after the bomb detonated.
So your father was a nuclear engineer?
No, he was in the Corps of Engineers in the Army.
Okay.
As he used to tell me, my mother thought he built bridges. He actually blew them up. You know, if you look at old manuals that had drawings of German Teller mines and S mines and all these different things, those drawings were probably done by him. But he was quite an expert in that sort of thing. Had a number of adventures. I mean, if you know, I mean, I think he had a fascinating, you know, military career. He did get out in '46 as a captain. You know, they offered a major to stay in, and he just said, "No, I'm going to go home." And they started a construction company, but he was recalled in '51 when Korea heated up. But he spent most of his time at the Pentagon, and then had duties there in New Mexico. So it's fun. I've actually been to the Atomic Testing Museum and seen maps and so forth of where Project Desert Rock was. I've got a book on it that I'm going to donate to them. You know, that was the manual and all the instructions that were given to everybody who arrived.
Wow.
It was a fascinating series of tests, and it was the reason the government actually, people don't realize this, but the government actually has a program compensating people that can prove that they developed leukemia or other diseases as a result of the nuclear testing. They had no idea how bad it was. They had no idea the damage that radiation could do to people.
So you mentioned that you lost both of your parents. What kind of time frame was that?
Well, my dad had been in the hospital since summer, and it was approaching Christmas Eve. My mother was really not taking it well. Again, one day she'd be really up and happy and everything was groovy, and the next day she would be down. I thought this was normal. I thought that's women, right? You know, and you know, and plus she was going through a lot of stress, and my dad had a big company he was running and everything, and she was having to take over for her. And anyway, on Christmas Eve, I went with the high school class, and we went out delivering presents. Probably, you know, to needy children and that sort of thing. And got home, and, you know, it was late. You know, I'd been out with I was out with high school kids doing stuff, you know. So once we've given the presents out, we did what high school kids did. And got home late, and so my room was on a separate side of the house, so I didn't think anything of it. Then the next day I didn't see her at breakfast, but her car was in the driveway. And I never saw her all day, you know. I mean, this was really unusual. And so, you know, I began to call the neighbors, and everybody just came over, and we got looking around and trying to figure out what was going on because they hadn't seen her at the hospital. And that evening, I remember just as it was getting dark, we had a tool shed out back of the house. And we were out looking around, trying to, you know, anyway. So I went back to the tool shed. I thought of that. I said, oh, yeah, there's a tool shed. And I went back there, and I remember the light switch was on to my left. I flipped on the light switch, and I turned around to my right, and she had hanged herself.
Oh.
And so I found her. I remember, you know, reacting. I screamed like 3 times because it was clearly, you know, let me put it, guys. If anybody's considering that way of ceasing to exist on this plane, I suggest you think of something else, because they always change their mind, and she had to. I mean, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I went out. The neighbors, our next door neighbor came first. Then the second was a neighbor who lived nearby, and I knew he had just had heart surgery recently, and that he was pretty precarious. And the last thing he needed was to see something like that. So when he came out, I grabbed him and I said, "Help me inside," you know, because I had explained to both that, you know, my mom had hanged herself. She's in the total shed. And I asked him to help me inside because I didn't want him to go see it. So we went inside, called the, you know, I don't know if it even was 911 back then because we still had rotary phones and such. Well, I guess we had push buttons. But, you know, all the neighbors were there. There was the flurry of things, talked to the coroner, so forth. And I stayed with a cousin who lived very nearby in the neighborhood that night, the Christmas night. Then because that would have been Christmas Day, yeah. And then of course, you know, my sister was. I had another sister, because this is very typical. This is fun facts that you're not told at birth. A, women get incredibly fertile just before they get menopausal, and the other way to trigger it is to adopt kids, because unless there's something like a hysterectomy or something like that, your fertility just jumps. Well, so for a while I had two sisters, very brief amount of time, but anyway, so my sister Dixie, who is I love dearly, and now is a very successful veterinary surgeon in Atlanta. I had to talk to her. So, I mean, I told her that it was quick and all that stuff, and it wasn't, you know. But I had to, you know, be there for her.
Yeah.
But it's remarkable. I mean, you know, then, okay, and then it was 1 week later. The thing that I found out was that, all right, my mother was already unstable at this point, you know, and the thyroid pills, who knows, she might not have even been taking them, but if you've known anybody with thyroid problems, it affects you pretty much as if you know, were bipolar. So mood swings and so forth. But the gentleman who I had stopped, who I knew had just had heart surgery, his wife was one of my dad's nurses. And apparently she told other people that she had called my mother that night. And she said, "Bertha, Wallace took a turn for the worse. He won't even live long enough for you to get to the hospital." So my mom didn't bother trying. She just went to the tool shed. So thanks very much, you know. You know, it was just always funny that I kind of have in the back of my mind, I mean, I know that my mother was on the edge. Nobody does it. It's nobody's fault. I'm not blaming anybody. But, you know, that's not the kind of thing you say to somebody that you know is a friend you've known for 20 or 30 years, that you know she's unstable already and is going through hell. You don't tell him your husband's not going to live long enough to get to the hospital. Because, like I said, she said, "Why bother?" You know, and ended it. So the following New Year's Eve, I'd seen my dad once or twice a day when possible, but I saw him. The last thing I ever remember him saying is he tried to get out of bed and he said, "Lieutenant, help me out of here." You know, I mean, because he was completely delusional at that point. But I had to give the okay to withdraw life support. And that was just to kind of rub salt in it, because, you know, after, it was pretty rough to have to be the one to say, "Yeah, let's, you know, pull the plug." And of course, the second that I said that, I didn't know this, but people tend to, right before they beam up, they tend to, all of a sudden they get really well. You know, they start doing real well and everything seems like fine, and then poof, out. So he died New Year's Eve. So the holiday season's not always the cheeriest for me. You know?
I can imagine. Wow.
you know. But he, you know, he was. They were both well respected, well loved, and good people. You know, they were good people. So, and the sad thing is, they were young, or 50 years old at the time. You know, I was always stunned when I made it to 50, and I thought, God, I feel like so young. You know,
Yeah,
and,
it
and,
is.
and that's as far as they made it. You know.
So that dramatically changed your life
Oh
in
yeah.
in 1 week's time.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I just yeah, that was you know, that was like change your life, and it's not like switching rails, you know, on a train. It was like suddenly being on a plane or something different. Kind of, it was a whoa different world. Uh, Almost immediately. I mean, I think within 24 hours, my cousin, who was the editorial page editor of the Greenville News at the time, uh, moved in and took over as legal guardian of my sister and me, along with his wife Linda. Uh, the interesting thing was he was repaying a favor because my parents had taken him in when his father was murdered by a couple of Greenville policemen.
Oh
Now,
man.
his father was a quote, I think he's lovingly remembered as a no good alcoholic. That's lovingly remembered. Saying good stuff about him, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, he was bad apple, and he got across the Anderson County Bridge or something like that, and stopped his car. The police were chasing him. Stopped his car and said, "Hey, I'm in another county. You can't touch me." And the cops just said, "Oh, really? Watch this." Boom, and put him down. And they both went to jail. I mean, prison for a long time because of that.
Wow.
But anyway, my dad took him in, and they did stuff like drive across the country, went to Yosemite. I've seen all the pictures and stuff. He was with my dad when my dad was at the Pentagon, so he got to see a lot of stuff, and he immediately repaid that debt, you know, and wonderfully. Aubrey was a blessing. He was a big lover of theater, loved to act in the little theater and the warehouse theater, other things in town, and was way involved in that. And subsequently lost his job for something that we would never happen now, and that is that he was gay, and you know nobody knew this, but when it got out, you know, I'm sure he and his wife, you know, it was just part of their relationship. I mean, he was, you know, bisexual, I guess, you know. So, but when that got to the newspaper, they were given 6 months. He and a couple of other people that were seen coming out of a bar,
Yeah.
you know.
What was that like? You know, living in, I mean, I guess you would consider it to be the rural South in the 50s
Yeah.
and 60s,
Oh, yeah,
especially when you talk about Pickens and.
Go watch Driving Miss Daisy. You're going to see my childhood.
Really?
I'm not joking. My second wife, I've unfortunately been married twice. And my first wife, matter of fact, she stopped by the other day along with her husband, both of whom I love dearly. They're wonderful, wonderful people. And she and I love each other very, very much. It's just at the time,
Yeah.
you know, but this is my son's mother. So, and she has grown in wisdom and friendliness and good counsel. When I was in the hospital for a long time, about 10 years ago, she came and visited me frequently and stayed and talked. And I did the same for her when she got sick after that. Anyway, I'm sorry, I kind of got digressed.
No. So, you know, I imagine whether consciously or subconsciously, the death of your parents had a significant impact on you. Looking back, what are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I think so. I realize now, you know, that I've been sober a long time. because I am an alcoholic. I used to say I'm a raging alcoholic, and I certainly am. And I'm not a practicing alcoholic. I got it down. I'm a pro. But since I've been sober a good long time, I've had a lot of time to think about things like this and the influences that they have on your life. A lot of time for introspection, and I realized that. Well, look. First of all, being adopted from birth means I didn't have that time of being born and then placed on my mother's chest. That first contact is very important for infants. Didn't have that. Essentially lived in a ward in a hospital for the first 6 months of my life. At age 4, I lost somebody who I'd been with since I was a zygote.
A twin, yeah.
My twin sister, yeah. At age 4. Then at 17, my parents died. Then Aubrey and Linda ended up divorcing amicably, but lost that. Then Aubrey died. He was a good friend of Elton John's, by the way. It was interesting. Almost got to go to some parties with him there. But anyway, and then I had unfortunately, my first wife and I divorced, which I never thought I would divorce. I mean,
How old were you when you got married for the first time?
I'm going to say probably 23.
Now, did you go to college at all, or did you just get into the workforce?
Well, I would say I went to Clemson for about a semester.
Now, were you drinking at all? Had you had a drink?
Yeah, we started talking. Well, yes, I had, because by the time of high school, I really, about the first drink I ever had, I think I can remember it. I mean, the first time I really drank and felt it, really. I mean, as a kid, you taste stuff, you try to sneak things out of the parents, whatever. But the first time I had a whole beer and really went, whoa, that felt great. And that was at somebody's party just down the street from my house, And I do remember somehow acquiring a bottle of bourbon, I guess it was.
Nice.
And I one day, a friend of mine and I went home because we had early dismissal, and then I come back for a 6th period or whatever, and went home and had like 2 shots for just, not because I wanted it, or we were just goofing around, and then went back to school and was going, whoa, and it, and it was, and I walked in there and my drama teacher went, okay, it smells like a mimeograph machine exploded,
Yeah.
but he knew what was going on, but
no real consequences.
No consequences whatsoever. My everybody that I ran with, we drank, smoked pot. I did go through a period, by the way, in 17 to 8. After I was about 18, my best friend, who was is sort of a late best friend. I've got a best friend from earlier and lots of friends and stuff. But anyway, a guy and I became best friends. A guy named Frenchie, and then we got into some hard drugs, and I even used the needle a few times.
You're 18?
Yeah, 18. Yeah, and but I've got to say, we were always really careful. I first of all, like somebody stole a box of insulin syringes. And, that's back when, you could probably just walk into a store and just buy them, without a prescription or anything. But I said, okay, anybody who wants to use, here's the rules. You got to do it at my house, in my presence. I'll give you a clean fit, is what we called them. once that's used, break the needle and it goes in the sharps container. And you use an alcohol swab before and after, you know. And so if my friend said, okay, great, you know. And but just as, you know.
What were y'all shooting up? Heroin or?
Oh Lord, no. It was, there were different kind of things. I mean, crystal meth, different kinds of speed, and you know, just a assortment of things. And again, not many. A lot more people hit up around me than I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I did it. Probably I could count on one or two hands. Definitely the number of times I actually, you know, injected something.
So I find it interesting because I try to envision what life was like here, you know, in the state of South Carolina. Because I think it'd be fair to say we're like in the buckle of the Bible Belt.
Very much so. Yeah. Bob Jones University.
Drugs. It seems, and I'm looking to you because, of course, this is a different time. You're looking at 50s into the 60s, right?
Yeah.
The summer, you know,
Right.
which was a different time. But were drugs and drinking taboo?
You know, I think that at the time, you know, there was that TV series on Mad Men, I think it was, or you know, about advertising.
Yeah.
Everybody just drinking all the time. I think parents were like that. I mean, they used to, our neighborhood. I mean, my parents had parties, you know, and I remember a couple of neighbors would get pretty wasted and stuff, but they would walking home.
Yeah.
You know, but because I mean. But there were a lot more parties where people would get together on the weekends and drink, or they would. It was a regular thing to go out to dinner and then go to the, what was it? Ye Old Fireplace, and there were a couple of other places. One band leader, Charlie Spivak, who was a great sax player, not sax, but trumpet or whatever, I think. But anyway, brass. He played, and he was, I mean, a really well-known band leader. Settled in Greenville. He actually played taps at my dad's funeral, you know. So
Really? Wow.
but he was a big name, and so people would go to dinner. They'd have drinks. They would, you know, it was just like you would see in a movie about the time. They'd go out. They'd have a drink or two. Oh, your table's ready, and they'd go to the table. They would have drinks with dinner. And then afterwards, they'd go to another club. I think Ye Old Fireplace was the name of one that was very popular, that people would go and you know, all wearing ties and generally dressing well and behaving pretty well. And back then, by the way, in South Carolina, it was still a BYOB, bring your own bottle.
Okay.
So you had to bring your bottle in a bag in the trunk of your car. You could bring that in and either leave it on the table or the waiter would take it and you'd pay for the setups. You know, so
now let me ask you, do you think that, because I think experiencing that loss as well as, you know, having a structured home environment, do you think that having that loss attributed to the sphere of people that you were hanging out with, right? Because it seems like there was kind of a gravitation towards some people that were doing things that
they were a little
not
wilder.
everybody's doing.
They were a little wilder, if you, I mean, you know, I think it did. I think if I would, I mean, I know that, for instance, I would have probably finished Clemson if my dad had still been alive, because he finished Clemson, and by God, I would have.
Yeah.
You know, even though there was really nothing there that I was interested in. I mean, absolutely not a single course of study interested me at the time. There was nothing that had anything to do with theater or movies. And there wasn't even pre-med, which I'd always wanted to go into medicine.
Were you locked in because and I get as we go down this road? Were you locked in at an early age, knowing film and the arts was really?
I can tell you for a fact, I was 5 years old. I was roughly 5 years old. It makes me about 60, 61. And a movie came on television. And I don't know how, anyway, came on TV and I started watching it. And I suddenly realized this is storytelling. This is not the news. Because before then, if you're watching something, you'd have no concept as a child, is this reality or is this what? You think everything's real.
Yeah.
So I'm watching this thing and I realize this is a constructed story. Somebody put this together. They told a story, they shot pictures and did music and acted the lines. And that movie was Paths of Glory, directed by Stanley Kubrick. It's a story takes place in World War One. There's a French action where the general sends these men to do an impossible assault. They're slaughtered, and because it's an unsuccessful raid, he decides that there must be a lot of cowardice, so they just randomly pick 3 soldiers to be executed for cowardice,
And you were locked in that kind of.
And I remember standing. I wasn't even sitting. I was standing. I stood there, and I locked in on that, and I said, I want to do that. And from that point onward, everything I did was aimed towards that. Both my taking photography to theater. I mean, at the time, the closest thing you could get to any kind of film studies in this area, especially unless you were a college student and went to Bob Jones, they had a huge, and still do, I guess, a big film production facility. World's Most Unusual Films. You gotcha.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was locked in. There was nothing, so it was theater. Well, theater is a step. That's a step in the right direction. You learn a lot of the same stuff. So that was helpful. But I also had my first job about that time. It was in '73 during the summer, sometime again after my parents had died. I took a night job. I went to a local, very small production company. A guy had been with TV4, had left, bought a bunch of color equipment and video cameras in the day. I can't imagine, the stuff, because I got to tell you, I've worked in the earliest days of video.
Yeah.
To film, and then back now to digital stuff, and wow, the cameras back then were huge, complicated. You had a lot of stuff, and they looked like, I'm going to tell you, your backup camera looks way better, by a million miles than those things did.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I wanted to get in a movie, so I went and talked to them, and they finally called me one night and had a shoot happening, and so I made $25 gripping it. I mean, I thought, I'm in Hollywood, baby. This is it. And
you had the bug.
Oh yeah, I did, and I took some of the money that I had inherited, and it wasn't a whole lot, but there was some, and I bought a movie studio equipment, their film equipment, and it was a really small. There used to be a lot of really small production outfits, and these guys would shoot slasher movies or car crash movies, or like little horror movies. They were Ed Wood type things, and this guy had been a magician, I think, and then he got that, and his wife, he died of cancer, and his wife wanted to sell off all his stuff. And so I think it cost me about $6,000, But I got a number of cameras and lights and all kinds of stuff.
So you were in business.
Yeah. And I had the stuff, so we started just started teaching myself, and because it's filmmaking at that, to a great degree is like, it's as hard as digging ditches, but doing it, artistically,
Yeah.
with a, while trying to tell a story. And it was like crossing between the construction business, which my family had always been in, and photography, which I had an interest in. So it was like the perfect melding of those two worlds. But yeah, I mean, I was driven to do that. But I think one thing also to kind of put to bed an earlier thing that was asked when we were talking about like these different things and what's developed, and I've talked about the result of like losing sister, parents, so forth, and then even a wife, to a divorce. I believe with me, it has left me with a real aversion to a real fear of being deserted, of being left alone, of
Abandonment.
being abandonment. Yeah, and that's very intense at times, and I think that's it's something you have to really work hard at trying to control,
Yeah.
because even simple relationships, you can get too involved in them, and
Yeah.
that's not a healthy thing.
So how'd you meet your first wife?
In high school.
Okay, so you knew each other for quite some time.
Yeah, she was not my first serious girlfriend. My first serious girlfriend was in the same high school. She lives in town now, and we see each other quite often. It's funny. I mean, she never got married. We almost got married, and then she almost married one other guy, but never did. And I think she's better off not. She went on to get more involved in theater, where I went film initially. So she went to New York. She was one of the first like out of town women to join like Local One, which is the IATSE, the International Alliance of Theatrical and Stage Employees, which is the big union, film and stage and so forth. Projectionists are often union members. But she got to in that first theater local in New York, and she worked a lot of big jobs. I mean, like the Centennial. She was in charge of lighting the Statue of Liberty.
Really? Wow.
And a bunch of big time stuff, and then left there and went to Hollywood, literally, and for about 20 years worked as an assistant director on a number of movies. Finally hated that and nearly got killed, because everybody that goes through what's called the DGA, or Directors Guild of America training program, that makes SEAL training look like, going to a 12-year-old's birthday party with a pony. It's brutal. It's literally unbelievable hard work. Anyway, she did very well, became an associate to a producer, worked a lot of big films. And it's like she's the kind of person that if somebody would call her in the morning and they'd say, okay, we need a train. It needs to be a freight train. We need a track to run east and west, and it needs to be in Montana. And we need access to it for about 2 weeks. Find that, will you?
Yeah.
And hang up. Oh, okay, yeah, sure. I'll find you a train to rent in Montana. You try it. She'd do it, man. She's like that. So
That's interesting. You think of during that time, little old tiny South Carolina, but you're traveling in some of these spheres. Because, I remember that's kind of how you and I connected. Because, my trajectory in college for theater and interest in film. And, the thing is everybody thinks it's so far away and it's not tangible, but you know, it's one of those things. It's like anything. If you want to do something, you have to put your mind to it, and it's the law of proximity. You need to be around the people who know what they're doing,
There's a
and
film festival happening as we speak. One of my son's films showed last week. To show you how far it went, the closest I could get to film school in throughout high school was to take a drama class. If you really want to learn filmmaking, you want to go to Anderson County, because Anderson School Districts 1 and 2, industry, or what is it? I never can get it. Oh, Trade and Career Center. My son teaches filmmaking.
today.
Production today.
So it runs in the family.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, he and I are. I mean, we're clones. You
Yeah.
take me and take the bad stuff away, you got him. I mean, he's taller and better looking, you know. But unfortunately, he's got the same hair issues. But yeah, he's remarkable. His children have acted in a number of the pictures, and they've received awards and stuff.
So was that from the first marriage?
Yeah,
Okay, so you're with her. What's your drinking and it?
we both drank and smoked pot.
Is
and-
it? You know, this is the thing. Think about the space that you're in. You're in the arts and the creatives.
Oh,
It
yeah.
kind of comes with the territory. Is
Bada
that
bang.
fair to say?
Oh yeah, I can remember. Look, I can remember specifically once I had moved to Atlanta, which was around '88.
Okay.
Now I'm married to my second wife. We met how in the film business.
Mm-hmm.
She had worked in theater in New York. Most amazing costumer and seamstress on the planet. Wow, unbelievable. Anyway, we met on because her boyfriend at the time was doing these children's movies, and I worked on 3 of them, one for 3 years in a row. The first one, my wife and I were getting a divorce. We were
Now, were
separated.
substances? Do you think that substances or drinking contributed to the
No.
ending of that marriage?
I don't really think so.
What was drinking like in your life at that point in time?
Well, I'm pretty. I mean, there was always plenty to drink, and plenty of people around to share it. I mean, we routinely had a case of Guinness on, chilled, a case of Bass, because that's what my wife. Bass ale. I had Whitbread ale, and then there would be plenty of Scotch and other, stuff like that. And it wasn't an everyday thing. As a matter of fact, I actually, I did work for Channel 4 for a brief stint, about 4 years, I think from 75 to 79, something like that. And that's when the marriage broke up, was at the end of that. But when I started there, I never touched a drop before the sun was well over the yard arm.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I had a boss there, and we were shooting film, for commercials and things like that, and got my started, into lighting, because the early video cameras were really crappy. But anyway, I had a boss who was a real raging alcoholic. I mean, he is to this. I'm sure he's got to be beamed up long ago, but he really encouraged. He pushed drinking. It was like, come on down to the bar with us, get a burger and have a couple of beers. And it was like every day, go get a burger and 4 beers. I didn't want to. I went home. Because if I had a beer, I just didn't feel good and productive the rest of the afternoon. Really. Now Friday was different, because they used to say about at Channel 4, you could roll a hand grenade upstairs where the bosses were, and nobody'd hear it go off,
Yeah.
because there wasn't anybody there, and that means that when the mice or the cat's away. So we'd routinely gather for poker games in the dark room,
Nice.
smoke cigarettes and drink beer all afternoon, you know. And
The
well,
good old days,
yeah.
right?
And he ended up living in the dark room at the TV station. I mean, but anyway, he encouraged it. He really pushed drinking,
Yeah.
and I mean, to the extent of the nightmare type that everybody who doesn't want to drink or is trying to cut down, that nightmare guy that keeps coming. Oh, come on, you can have one more. Come on, take one more. Oh, you're a pussy, you know, if you can't, you know.
Yeah.
And he was just like that. He was awful.
So what do you think contributed to your first divorce? Because you say y'all are...
It was a lot of things. I really do believe that. I don't think she'd mind me saying this, but I think a lot of it was my first wife was quite unstable at the time. She has since, boy, she's so matured and so I've just enjoyed talking to her and loving her, you know, so much. There was a time I was down about something, I forgot what it was, and I felt like I had a coach from Favor sitting there talking to me. I mean, she was just really wise and brilliant. But at the time, we were young and too young to be married.
How long were you married in that first
We
marriage?
were married probably, well, I think it was a total of 7 years.
So you
But there
made
were a
it,
couple
you
of
got
years
to
of
about 30.
separation.
You got to, what, 23
Yeah,
to
yeah,
30?
yeah, something like that. That's almost exactly
How
right.
old was your son when you...
5.
5.
And I essentially gave her custody of him. I did not fight her having custody because I thought we were going to get back together. I thought it was just a matter of time before we were back. And also, because she was unstable, she was very loving with him and very careful, and she was really a very good mother and so forth in so many ways. But it's just between she and I, you know, things weren't working.
Yeah.
But I let my son, let her get primary custody. You know, I had visitation.
You were still involved.
Yeah, because I felt that if I took him away from her, that she'd kill herself.
Understood.
You know, and being somewhat sensitive to walking on dead women, you know,
Yeah.
that I'm related to, you know,
Yeah.
that was a concern. I mean, I even had a firearm at the time, and I remember getting rid of it because I didn't want it in the house. I came home one day and it was on the bed covers. Whoa, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know.
So that chapter ends. You're going into your 30s. What's going on?
Well, I was here working a few things. I started working again at Channel 4. They called me, the station manager called me and had a project that he wanted to do. And it was a syndicated show called PM Magazine. That in some places is called Evening Magazine or PM Magazine. It was based out of San Francisco. That's where the parent company was. If you were a franchisee, it was called PM. If your station was owned by the same company that owned the other, it was Evening Magazine. Anyway, it was had what we had. We called it a Barbie and Ken, that would go about and say, hey, tonight we're at the zoo and we're taking a look at this. But first, a story on the new bikinis coming out in Malibu. You know, da, da, da. And then they come back from that. Well, what did you think about that, Jen? You know. So, you know, it was one of those kind of things.
Good gig.
It was a great gig. We got to travel a lot.
Yeah.
I went to Africa, Belgium, was setting up a visit to the then Soviet Union. And I was in negotiations with that when we did the Africa trip.
What year was that? Was the Cold War going on at that time?
Well, this was in 86, 87, because the year that when Chernobyl happened is the day, almost to the day, of when my second wife and I had like our first real date.
Really?
Really
okay.
we're getting
You
serious.
remember. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, because I've got to tell you, my second, I'd seen her before. I'd met her before a long time ago, and and it was like lightning bolt. I mean, it was like I'd never seen anybody so unbelievably beautiful, just so absolutely stunningly beautiful.
Now, had you been to Russia yet, or
No, no. Well, see that's yet to come. See, I met Noni is her nickname. So what she goes by. Her full name was Antoinette Gianmarinaro.
oh,
Or married to me, it was Noni Seeley. So she likes the fewer letters, you know.
yeah,
And of course, I learned to spell Gianmarinaro immediately, you know.
yeah.
The funny thing is when we met is the first year, my first wife and I were separated, but she and her boyfriend were together. The second year, they were getting rocky. I was divorced and wide open. The third year, we were both open, and
The sky was open.
I think I can still remember one night. I don't know how we just realized that we were very interested in each other. And one night, I think I took her home. Maybe after we'd watched dailies, you know, which is because we were shooting film, and we were looking at the rushes, the raw unedited footage, just, you know, to see. So we looked at it, and I took her home afterwards, and I said, well, you know, good night, Noni, and, you know, I'll see you later. And I kind of went to give her a little kiss on the cheek, and she turned, and I don't think we let go of that kiss for weeks,
Nice.
you know, and it was unbelievable. I mean, the neighbors were complaining. And you know, I've got to tell you, we were married for 23 years. She is a brilliant woman. She'd been recruited by the CIA. She put herself through Vassar College. You know, I mean, she's really something else. Hell of a cook. I blame her for my weight problem today. And I think one of the reasons she took to me, she said, is that we were in a kitchen with friends of hers, all in Asheville, where she was living at the time. And the way I washed the mushrooms, she knew I was going to be okay, because I didn't wash them. I took a damp paper towel and wiped them. That's what you do with mushrooms. You don't rinse them under water. They get soggy.
Yeah.
You know, and she knew, this guy knows his way around a kitchen.
Yeah.
He'll be useful. You know? Yeah. But yeah, man, she still is a heartbreakingly beautiful woman, and she looks so much like Audrey Hepburn. And I mean, long, thin neck, and beautiful, big brown eyes the size of Wisconsin, you know, and gorgeous, half Polish, half Italian, or half Sicilian and half Polish. So when they get mad at you, they kill somebody in their own family.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, anyway, to get past that for now. I guess I could say, where were we?
Well, you're talking about negotiating to Russia, and I found it interesting. I was like, did you have the opportunity to go during the Cold War?
Well, this was not 90 after 92. It was like 87.
Yeah.
88, because in 88 I moved to Atlanta, so it was between 86 and 88.
What was that experience like?
Well,
did you actually get to go?
No, here's the problem. We went to Kenya. And that was a terrific trip. We got a lot of remarkable footage. I had some wonderful experiences there. That two big things happened. One, there is still online, you can find an organization called elephant voices online if you're interested in African elephants and their preservation. And Dr. Joyce Poole is a woman who is one of the founders of that, and we did one of our stories was about Joyce Poole, and because all the research that she was doing, and while I was with her and her assistant one day, she was driving, the assistant was in the back of the car, I was in the car with the video camera. We were driving up this little dirt road, and it was all open, and this elephant, big male elephant, was coming perpendicular. You could tell he was going to cross the road about where, so she slows down and stops, and it's pretty close to him, and she knows I want to get a shot, so I'm get the door open and walk out in front of the car to get a shot. Well, he turned and came toward us, and he flared his ears and trumpeted, and and she had said, be real careful because this is what we call a must male, M-U-S-T, male, and it basically, when they get about 40 years old, is when a male elephant decides, I'm ready for a date. and nothing, including Nairobi or a wall or a village, is going to stop me. And so what they do is they dribble urine, because the elephants are matriarchal.
Yeah.
The females run the herd, and it said that they're hormonally active and ready.
Did it charge you?
No, he didn't, but he came and he did a beautiful, while I'm filming, so I got this most remarkable shot of a bull elephant, a must male, what most people call a raging bull. Literally,
Yeah,
this is what
yeah.
people call a raging bull elephant. That's what it is. It's a must male, because he's thinking of one thing.
Did you put it in the episode?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, the footage was, and it was all Betacam. It was a fabulous shot, remarkable. She was so excited to get it, that we gave her copies of the audio, because a lot of the audio is important.
You think that could be found online today?
I may still have it, because it was shot in a format that was called Betacam, which is literally tape. I got a transfer of that made to digital, like DVD, and sent her a copy just a few years ago. I mean, this has been 30, 40 years or whatever since we actually did it. I said, man, I've got a lot of I saved all the tapes that were with her.
Yeah.
And I sent her and her husband all these copies of that material.
So you said you were married for 23 years.
To Noni, yeah.
Was there a progression of your drinking throughout those 23 years?
Yes.
Do you feel? Could you tell us about that?
Yeah. Well, it's really my big punishment, because, I mean, to lose Noni is, nothing could be worse. At first, drinking was all fun. It didn't have to happen, did happen sometimes. I remember went out on a date one time with her, and I think I had 2 beers. And I thought, great, I only had 2 beers. She thought, boy, he sure drinks a lot. Wow. That was, poor her. She should have taken the warning and stayed away from me, because it just got worse. The alcoholism just took over. A lot of it was, I guess it was frustration, and it wasn't easy. It's not an easy business.
Yeah.
Being in film production, because, I mean, we did a lot of, and together we worked on a lot of Hollywood movies. She was actually Winona Ryder's stand-in. I just think Winona Ryder is stunning, beautiful.
Wow.
And she was Winona's stand-in on a movie, and had her hair cut. Her hair, Noni could sit on her hair. It was that long. blonde, and kind of her dark blonde. But she cut it all off and had the hairstylist match Winona's hairstyle. Got an extra set of the costume so she could be the perfect stand-in for Winona. The interesting thing is that Noni doesn't go by Antoinette, she goes by Noni. And Winona Ryder goes by her nickname, which is Noni.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So Winona felt like that was confusing, so it became Antoinette and Noni. You know? So, except for the last week when the first assistant directors were pissed at Winona by that time and were calling them both Noni.
Yeah.
You know, and stuff like that. But anyway.
How far into your marriage did drinking become problematic?
I think it became problematic about, I'm going to say halfway in.
Yeah.
10 years.
About 10 years in. What was going on?
The worst, well, we were beginning to have monetary problems, really. By the time of the Olympics, which in Atlanta, which is where we lived, 1996, by that time, film production and video production was slowing down. The majority of my work was not really in motion pictures. That was a good part of it. But you really made your bread and butter with what we call industrials. And these are when you're doing a thing for, let's say there's a company that makes bearings for Torrington. Let's say it's Torrington, and you're going to do Torrington bearings. And you're going to do a video. And so you'll have a 15-minute marketing video for them that starts with an exterior shot of the factory, slow zoom in, cut to shot of lobby with customers walking through lobby, greeting receptionists. Then it goes to the guys in the conference room doing the drawing.
It's like
Next
a corporate
is the CAD
contract.
cam. Now you're on the production floor and stuff like that. And then quite often you'll cut to stage shots where you've got somebody saying, the reason our bearings are used in the M1 Abrams are because they hold up to this and that, and we use certain techniques and that sort of thing. They're all formulaic, but it took a big crew and a lot of money to shoot them. With Coca-Cola, we would often shoot them twice. Like when they came out with a new vending machine, we shot the whole video, which was a long video on how to set up and use the machine. This was for vendors. And how to set up and use the machine and adjust it and do all that kind of stuff. Everything, maintenance. Shot the whole thing. They take it back, review it with their engineers, with management, with marketing, with everybody and everything. And then we shot the real thing.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. Well, it just changed because the internet came along. And suddenly, instead of sending a 15-minute video, people realized they could just do a website and do little short video clips. I mean, back then, because there is a tremendous, the file sizes of videos is enormous. And this is all ones and zeros. That's a lot of ones and zeros to make a picture, much less one that moves, talks, and walks and, can point to the Coke machine in the right way. And, it just...
changed the game for you.
It really did. I've got to say that, there were producers that I regularly worked 4 days a month for. And that's a lot of money because... you would work more than 4 days a month, but I would have 2 or 3 producers that I was working 2 to 4 days a month. I would work maybe a week and a half per month and make good money.
Good money.
That was good money. The rest of it was between pictures, But it started falling off, and then there were months where there was nothing.
Did your drinking ramp up?
You better believe it. Even because the worry was up there, and the anxiety, and I think I was letting the worry get to me, and it was you would think you're having a heart attack or something. You take a pretty stiff scotch, and you're not worried about a heart attack anymore.
Now, did you get to where you were drinking in the mornings?
I got to at by the time I was, yes, I got to I got to be one of those that had to have a drink when I got up in the morning. Probably got I mean definitely got up in the middle of the night at 3 in the morning or whatever, to go try to sneak a shot or two of vodka, to come out and go back to bed.
Let me ask you this: if let's say Noni was sitting here,
Yeah.
and she were to describe the last year of your marriage, what do you think that description would be like?
Well, it would be, in a way, this sounds crazy, but the last year was probably pretty good for both of us. Pretty not entirely unpleasant, because she had told me, she said, "All right, that's it." Got to one day, she said, "That's it. You're divorced. We are getting a divorce. Period. I've had it. Told you one more time, and I'm done." She said, "I am now done. That's it." Once I was resolved, it's like the pressure was off. It was terrible. I didn't look forward to it, but at the same time, she was coming in between me and my drinking.
Mm.
But the worst thing, and I think what she always said, now I'm not sure this is entirely true, because look, I never missed work. I never had a DUI when we were married. I never, I didn't get real crazy. I didn't go to bars. I didn't stay out. I didn't mess around. Never had an affair or stepped out or anything like that. But the one thing I did is that I tried hiding it, and that was lying.
The dishonesty.
It was the dishonesty. It was the lying, and that has made me extremely sensitive to lying now. I really, really don't like to even stretch the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the polite lies. You look great. Don't worry about that, or whatever. You look fine, honey. Or I used to say, you've got to know not to say things like, when they say, "Hey, does this dress make my butt look big?" You don't go, "No, your butt makes that dress look big."
You're crazy.
But I think we had both relaxed by that last year and knew that it was over. I guess she knew that it was coming, but when she told me, she said, "You just don't know what it's like to lie there at night next to somebody who smells like you do, your breath, and to realize I'm married to somebody I don't love anymore." Boy, that one still hurts to even say. And the betrayal, it's like I truly never had an affair, never had anybody on the side or anything like that. I mean, not even a little bit, like Bill Clinton. "Well, I did not have sex with a woman. I had something like sex, but it wasn't." It wasn't even remotely like that. But so I never cheated on Noni, except I did cheat with the bottle.
With alcohol.
I tried with alcohol. It made me cheat on my wife.
So what happened when she left?
Well, I kept drinking. I tried going to AA. As a matter of fact, I mean, she started going to Al-Anon and everything the last couple of years.
What year was this when you tried to go to AA?
Gee, well, see, I'm too old to have early onset dementia, so I can't blame that. No.
Did you get the 2000s?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it was like 20 years ago.
Okay.
So it was like
05.
2005, something like that.
We'll go with that.
Yeah, because what and or 2005, 2010. Let's make it closer to, because
Okay.
we lost our home. Now this is after she had already left,
Yeah.
but it was in the process because we were illegally we were cheated on that one. I mean, everybody that loses them, everybody that has anything like that, always it's somebody else's fault. Well, look, I got letters from the Michigan Attorney General, telling me that the bank that was supposedly refinancing my loan was actually using the information I was giving them in order to foreclose on that very loan, and they were doing nothing to try to, and they were doing it to so many other millions of people that it became a huge class action lawsuit. They ended up getting the Attorney General of a state to represent everybody in the country that had that same bank, and then they would get like the Attorney General of another state, because there were so many cases.
Yeah.
And now what had happened is that these big banks, literally, what they did is called double tracking. At the time, the administration was saying, we think people should be able to refinance, lower their interest rates, and we tried to do that.
But you
And
lost.
called our bank and said, this is what we want to do, and refi and get the better. They said, great, we'll start the process, and send us all this information, fax us this, send us that. It was always tons of information. Never heard anything. It was always, oh, well, we never got that fax. We never got that information.
And all this, you're losing your marriage and still drinking.
Yeah. And losing the house. I mean,
Yeah,
fighting
losing
for
the house.
thinking that I've got a bank on my side.
So it's fair to say that life is a mess.
A bit. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, a bit.
yeah. Oh, man.
Rather a pickle, I should say. Yeah, it was a poser. No, it was horrible. I mean, I can remember the last couple of days in my house too. I mean, it was nothing. There was no furniture. A friend of mine came down and helped me move the last of what I had left into a rider truck. And I remember one thing that was weird is, a baby bird had, like, I was getting gas in the truck after I was driving loads from Atlanta back here to Greenville, because I could have had somebody that was going to let me stay with them. And this baby bird, was on the ground. He was going to be dead within hours, What the fuck? I can't, I don't know. I just, your life's shit. You can help a baby bird. I did. So, got the little bird, and I could give it water and stuff like that, but I didn't know what to feed it. So I called my sister, and she said, well, just take an empty syringe and just take bread to begin with, and mush it up with water, and get it really, really loose, and then you can feed the bird with the syringe or whatever. And of course, the guy from the bank came by and saw this little box. I guess he didn't know the bird, and he saw a syringe in there, and he probably just assumed I was doing drugs by then, And he threw the box away, in the bird.
Oh, he killed your bird.
Killed the bird, But I mean, and then it's just like everything was like at that point. I was just pouring anything cheap. Actually, it was Old Smuggler Scotch, because it tasted a lot like Glenlivet, which is my favorite single malt. But I couldn't have even thought about a single malt.
Oh, so you get back to Greenville in shambles.
A shambles, yeah. I have tail between my legs. Had a friend that did help me and really let me get into a phase of work that has been primarily my
Yeah.
work, which is now legal videos.
But so let me ask you this. Did you think that maybe it might be a good idea to clean your act up?
Well, Jeez, of course. I mean, why do you think I didn't go to AA for fun?
Yeah. Were you successful?
With AA or with?
Well, no. During that time, like coming back, you're like, all right, I'm gonna quit drinking.
I didn't once I got back. I'd already tried to quit, and then they stole my house from me.
And so that
It was
just
a
ran.
$215,000 house. Out of it, I got $1,200.
Mm.
You know, that was the fine that collectively divided between everybody.
So it's fair to say that's a good excuse to drink more.
So, oh hell yeah, it was a good excuse. So, I actually at one point cleaned up my act to where, like in the big book of AA, you'll read about, you know, it's everybody's dream to moderate and to be able to drink like a gentleman again, and I did for about 2.5 years. I could have a half a beer or a half a glass of wine, put it down, walk away, and not give a damn. I mean, it was perfectly fine. And then got back to Greenville, or that. Anyway, I had a temporary girlfriend. I met a girl, got to be a very intense relationship, and I really, really liked her. And she made the best decision, and we cut it off. But at that point, I just was ready to take a flying leap into all the booze you could make. I mean, I was just, that's when I lost that 2.5 year period of drinking responsibly again.
So walk me through to where you get this moment of clarity that I got to do something different. How did that? What was it? What did it look like? What was going on?
Well, it was constant. It was for years. It was no one point. It was like, I've got to clean up, and I couldn't. I got to clean up. I'd clean up for 2 days, 3 days, then I'd be drinking again. And I finally got to where I would drink until I was just sick all the time, nauseated all the time.
Would you say that you felt hopeless?
Oh yeah. I mean, yes. There was simply no hope. It was utter despair, not seeing how I was going to get out of any of it, not seeing anything ever getting better again, ever. And nothing helped. Church didn't help, and this didn't help, and that didn't help, nothing. AA didn't help, nothing helped.
What do you think were you more depressed or more angry or?
Yes.
All of the above.
Actually, not as so angry as I was depressed and afraid.
Yeah.
I was fearful. I was afraid of dying, yet I didn't want to live.
And afraid to live.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, and if I could just go to sleep, that's where I wanted to be, is asleep. And you know, you drink enough hard liquor or wine or whatever, and boring TV shows will put you right to sleep.
Check out
where you want to be, and that's where I wanted to be, and I kept repeating that cycle and repeating that cycle and repeating that cycle until I got really tired of the sickness. It was the being sick all the time. It was in the morning, the vomiting, till my eyes were always bloodshot from the strain. I figured I'm going to be dead of having a stroke, puking in the sink, because, you know, I can't keep my alcohol down. I mean, it literally got to the point of like, you know, it had to be at least a shot every hour. And the first one in the morning, it may not stay down, but the second one would, and third and fourth. And then I would mellow out, just drink wine every hour after that, you know.
it became your job.
Yeah, I mean, it became all I did, and it started to affect my appearance at work. I think I was still, the thing, it was making my job 10 times as hard to do, when normally what I did should have been fun and be second nature. That's what my work is like when I'm really enjoying it and I'm doing a job.
Yeah.
It's just second nature. it's like those dreams where you can fly,
Yeah.
or you can run and you can take a step and you go a mile,
Yeah.
It was, that's the way work usually was, and now it was 10 times as hard a struggle, and I was having to drink while I was at work, and I was still doing some brilliant work at times, but God darn, I'd had to work hard to do it. I finally reached a point where I knew I had to do something, and several things happened at the same time. I actually lived in a warehouse. Now it doesn't sound like it was a real warehouse, but actually it was an apartment in a building that was inside the warehouse. It's just, it was cheap, and I had my own bedroom, a kitchen, bathroom, shower, washer, dryer, plenty of room. Nobody at night when we chained the front place closed. Nobody within 150 yards of me. Safe and secure, and ideal place for an alcoholic to just be. And I would edit and do work late at night and stuff, all hours, just whatever. But my boss, the guy that, because this was our office during the daytime, and at night I slept in the other part of it, which was my apartment. And he was going to be away for about a week or 10 days. And I thought, okay, this might be the chance. And I knew that I wasn't going to, it was like, I don't know, holidays or something. I just knew it was a time when nobody was going to be around. And one morning, so I was kind of getting myself primed to try to clean up. And I remember starting off for the doctor, to go to my doctor's office. And I almost stopped at like 2 different liquor stores and picked up a handle instead. Almost. But I managed to get to the doctor's office and walked in, and he pretty much knew what was going on. And I told him, and he said, okay. And he put me on an antidepressant. And he said, now you're not going to feel anything for about 8 days. He gave me a time and a day. He said, you'll start to feel better like on Thursday at 7:30 in the morning, Well, that's awfully precise, and then, this and that and diet and stuff, you can't drink. And, he said, no, don't stop drinking immediately. If you stop really fast, you're going to have more seizures, because I had seizures by then. So he said, don't try to do anything drastic, all at one time. Don't you do that cold turkey thing, because it'll kill you. And so, just, okay, fine. And I said, he said, get into a program or something like that. I said, well, like what? I mean, AA just didn't work for me, Now, I was judging AA in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say that it is quite different in the Greenville area.
Mm-hmm.
Much better, much better. Because in Atlanta, everywhere I went, every club I went to, it was always somebody was just coming back, just going out, or you could tell they were just about to just go out, And it was rotating doors, They had a revolving door in the front, And you can't be around that. That's not you need to be around successful people, about people that want to make it work, not about people who want to learn quotes and stuff. Anyway, I looked online and I found a method of drying out that, and I really want to say one thing and make this very, very clear. This worked for me.
Yeah.
But I've been through a lot of things that could have or should have killed me. I mean, I literally, I've had somebody try to murder me with a hammer. I have used a firearm, didn't have to pull the trigger several times to defend myself or a situation that was going on. And I've had some situations where literally death was right there, you know. I seem to have been lucky or blessed, whatever you want to call it. So I don't, the point I'm saying is I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on TV, but don't try this except at your own risk. And that is, this program was go ahead and get yourself a stash. And here's what you're going to do. Get like beer or whatever. I chose a porter from Asheville that's like 11%, it's as strong as wine, and you drink the first day one every hour. The second day you drink one every other hour. And what you do is over the course of a week, you get down until you're like 2 or 3 a day total. And at that point, your body has eased into it enough to where.
So you tapered yourself.
You tapered myself because I was in this warehouse. I was surrounded by nothing.
Yeah.
I could lock myself away on a desert island, so to speak, and do this risky procedure, and it worked. It meant that I stayed that whole time wanting a drink, wanting more.
Did you have shakes and all of that, or?
Not badly, but I did feel sick. I did. I mean, I was, sweating at night and not sleeping, and it was all the symptoms of desperately needing a drink, wanting a drink, but not quite as bad. You could. It gave you the physical ability to overcome it.
So you got to 3, then what'd you do?
Stopped entirely. I had 3 beers left, and I kept them just in case, because I was afraid that if I get 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and I got no other place to buy anything, and I'm freaking desperate, So I kept them for about 6 months, and I gave 1 away, and then another 2 away, and I've. The thing is, after that period. One other thing I'd looked up online was places I could go to try to get help. Of course, I did try some AA places and was surprised to find there were some quite positive people. And I thought, wow, this really is different from Atlanta. But the other thing is I found a place called Favor. And I had no idea what it was. It was all, BS smiley people, what do you expect? It doesn't show people puking. Are you tired of puking your guts out? It's all happy people recovering and stuff. So I came to a meeting it was a Friday evening, all recovery meeting.
What year?
Well, this was about 10 years ago. I think it was 2015. I think it was 2015.
One of the OGs.
Back in the day, it was back when the bracelet was black, not blue. Like, if anybody has a black bracelet that they will spare me, I would love to replace. I've got a blue one now, but my old black one broke. I never took it off, and I don't wear jewelry, so even watches. But I don't take this off. Anyway. I came to that meeting on a Friday evening. I remember where I was sitting. And by the time the meeting was over, I was sober. Now, I may have had a beer or 2 after that, because while I had detoxed, so to speak, myself, there was still 1 or 2 times. But I don't think I did, but I think what I mean by I was sober was that I don't remember drinking after that. and I don't think I ever did. But that ended it. I knew I had found people who understood and people that I could relate to, because I don't believe most people. And I'm really very cynical and very mistrustful, and I hate slogans. I really hate little cutesy things. That
How about
people-
this one? I have one for you that you might tolerate.
Yeah, and I might go on a tri-state killing
The
spree.
opposite of addiction is
Connection.
you got a problem with that one?
Yeah,
Okay.
but it doesn't make me nauseous like
I got
like
you.
some of the other
Yeah.
ones. I mean, it's because it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, and a lot of them are true. But I mean, I'll tell you the one that'll get me is if I say to somebody, "How you doing?" and if the next person that I hear go, "Better than I deserve," is a dead man.
I'll have to remember never to say that.
Yeah, right. And then the and the tri-state killing spree is starting right then. I hate that expression, and there's a lot of stuff you hear like, I may have another drunk in me, but I know I don't have me another recovery. BS. That is a lie. You've always got a chance. I don't care if you've been on the recovery.
The circuit.
Running wheel. What do you call it? Squirrel cage.
Yeah.
For all your life, there's one more in you, and you tried. It might be the one that works,
Yeah.
because that's what it took for me. I tried a lot of times, and I finally hit it here at Favor.
So what if you could? What has the past 10 years been like for you? What's that journey been like? What are some things that you have picked up along the way, from a positive perspective?
I couldn't even know where to begin.
Somewhere.
All right, here's the thing you asked me about. Did I feel despair or did I feel hopeless before? That is the greatest gift. I don't feel despair. I don't feel hopelessness. I can tell you that right now I'm in a financially terrible situation. It's been an awful year because of the weather. My insurance, my medical bills have gone sky high. Drugs that I paid small amounts for are now $450 a month for one medication, and things like that. It's really rough. But guess what? I'm cool with it because it's going to work out. And the thing is, I'm not just saying that because I'm Mr. Smiley Face, being cheerful and try to be an optimist.
Yeah.
No. It will work out because for 10 years, that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
When something awful happens, something I think is terrible, all of a sudden, boom, you better be grinning and looking over the hill, man, because it's about to get here, and you'll love it when it does. It's what real faith is. Faith, to me, I would define faith as knowledge based entirely on no evidence, on the complete lack of empirical evidence. You still have knowledge of something. That's what faith is.
Yeah, I think the definition is belief in the unknown or unseen.
Sure,
Right.
and mine is that, but to specifically to say, because I think so many people say, I think they think faith is trying. Faith is not trying. Faith is knowing.
Knowing.
And I know that things are gonna work out.
So when you walked through the door, do you think that you got a glimpse that reassured and reaffirmed your faith? Because you weren't in the best shape. Right.
No,
Yeah.
I definitely wasn't. And I'll tell you what, I don't know if I even had faith or hope. I guess I had enough hope to get me in here, or why would I have bothered?
You had nothing to lose.
Bada bing.
Yeah.
Exactly. I I still parked in the back because at the time my company name, which is my name, was on the side of my car. I parked in the back. Now,
You
man,
don't care. It's so funny, people in the beginning don't want to be seen, or and that goes to your point that if we go way back when you were younger, the stigma, being
right.
and I think one thing I'd be interested in your perspective on this, because here is what happens in the home stays in the home. We're not
Or in the
bringing out,
family.
right?
So,
And the thing is everybody knows somebody, right? But the stigma, go back 10 years, right? When you first walked through the door.
yeah.
Because you've very much been a part of the change in messaging here in the upstate, which is secondary, I believe, to anywhere. I know that they're working in the lower part of the state and other regions, but the connectivity of resources and people that work together to try to break down barriers, I think it's fair to say you've been able to witness that and be a part of that the past 10 years.
It is so remarkable that people that are going to move from the area, you can see the one thing that can be excited about going to the place they've always wanted to go, or get the job they've always wanted, but favor won't be there. And that really bums them out, and it would bum me out. It's, I love the desert or the beach. Beaches and deserts I love, and I would love to live at either one of them. I'd love to just live in New Mexico or Arizona in the desert somewhere. That would just be fine by me. But favor wouldn't be there, and I don't know how I could leave it.
You love it that much.
Oh yeah.
What are some of the things over the 10 years that stand out that you could tell us? Like, if you could walk down memory lane of like some cool things that you've seen that Favor's done for recovery, what are some of those things?
Some of the coolest things I see are always involved people. And I think that's what got me here in the first place. As a matter of fact, I'm a little almost reticent to mention it, but I don't follow the usual script. I do outreach, usually as a facilitator, and I don't follow some script of describing that we're a 503c corporation or something like that. There is not a person in that room that gives a damn about that. They don't care if an I don't know what this fascination is with acronyms. They got your TLAs and your FSFL, or what is the FS? Your ISFLAs. Your TLAs are your 3-letter acronyms, and your ISFLAs are your industry standard 5-letter acronyms. Somehow Recovery World just loves those. Not a person in there suffering at a hangover or being assigned to be in one of those places, or who's drying out, is interested in any of that. They want to know how it feels. They want to know on a personal basis. And I have to say, in essence, what has kept me sober, what made me get sober in the first place, is favor, because it is people who really want it, really, really want it. And it's because we don't have a program at Favor. There's no program of recovery here. What we do is we let people experience recovery. We don't say read a book and you'll find out what recovery is.
Unless that's what they want to do.
Oh, they can read all they want. We have a library. There's plenty of books anywhere.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because that's one thing, from the outside looking in, when we talk about multiple pathways, right? There's not, with addiction and alcohol use disorder, it's not a one size fits all. I think it's fair to say that you're probably not only, you probably don't need to just read one, you need to read a lot of books and information
If you
along
want,
a path of
yeah.
of recovery, right? Because
Oh,
I think learning and knowledge is power. But you know, I think having a space where we embrace whatever and there's no conditions, and being accepting of people and loving each other into a position of health and wellness and unity.
right. And the here's the thing too. Two parts on this. One, how we learn things in terms of like by books or by people. First of all, studies have always shown, or for a long time have shown, that almost every generation improves on the prior generation in its ability to solve problems, do new things, handle new situations, and in essence grow to do what we hope civilization will do, which is to progress and to become better at all the good things. Unfortunately, we've found that recently that's changed. The last generation, whether they call it Generation X, Y, or Z, I have no idea. This
it's
generation is doing markedly worse than its predecessors. And the reason given by some, as a theory, of course, is that we're now using computers and programs to teach stuff rather than one-on-oneing it from the teacher to the student. Now tell me, what do you remember more? A book that told you something that was a tip or that was a good thing about life, or something your grandmother or grandfather told you that you've always kept with you? What have you learned most deeply? And I think when you really get back at it, the things that really get deepest in us are not just the things we've read, but are something that the wise old guy told me, or this funniest thing that a kid would say this, and isn't that a smart thing for a child that young to be able just to be innocent enough to say this truth? Whatever, it's coming from another people. It's because humans learn biologically. We respond more to biologicals than we do to things. If you're assigned to go read a book, you can read that book and you may make an A on the test on it. Or you may do like I did in school and and get past your test on Faust, because I had there was a children's comic book series called Classics, but they were comic books of the classics, and I read the comic books.
So
and
let me
I
ask
make
you this.
A's on the test.
Oh, sorry. Let me ask you this. What are some of the things that people told you that impacted you over the past 10 years?
Well, that's sort of once again, it's difficult for me to center on one. It's like, what's your favorite food, or name
Just
your
some
favorite
that
movie.
stand out. What are some? Because think, there may be somebody hearing this
Oh, I know.
that helped change your life.
And that's why about 10 minutes after we finish up, I'm going to walk out and go, oh, damn it, this is what I should have said. That's always, it seems to be the case. But I've got to just say, I really can't say a phrase or an expression that did it, that stuck out more than just experiencing it. Again, look, I like to study. I hated school because of that one teacher. But now I would kill to get involved in some, to go to university or something. When I've talked to my doctors about, I have cirrhosis of the liver. And that's a terminal disease. That's an end stage disease. Well, mine is now classified as compensated cirrhosis. It wasn't. It was one of the worst cases my gastroenterologist had ever seen. But now it's compensated, which means I'm not, my liver's not killing me. It's working well enough for me to keep going. So I have a cirrhosis that, sure, I have it. I got it because I drank too much and I wouldn't stop. But I studied very much my disease from a medical point of view, excuse me, to, psychologically reading the books. And of course I've read, all the books about that are on the AA lists and stuff like that. But it's experiencing people telling stories, going through things in their lives and revealing how they've changed that shows me a path I will take, or that shows me how to apply their way of thinking to a path. Now, if you want to open doors and say, of all the things that I remember, I will give you the example of the one statement that somebody told me, so to speak, or he told the whole class, was my drama teacher. Back in high school, he said, when I was still a junior in high school, he said, every day you guys come to class, you're going to probably go take the same route or route. You're going to come here the same way. What I want you to do is to see something different every single time. And to this day, I do that. I don't care where I am, what I'm doing. I'm always looking for something I missed before. And when I was drunk, I was always looking through pretty fuzzy, like I say, looking through the bottom of a bottle or looking at it through, the wavy glass, But sobering up, suddenly I'm able to put things together that make sense. Suddenly I understand what words mean and how they're put together and why. I think about the word anesthetic, and of course, alcohol for a long time was used as an anesthetic when you had nothing else. What does that mean? Anesthetic. Well, an means negative, not. An aesthetic, it's the appreciation of beauty. So think of that. You're not appreciating beauty when you're using something like alcohol as an anesthetic all the time. Not just in the medical sense. When I go to talk to my doctors, when I meet a new doctor, and I have a lot of very good specialists that I have to see, because I'm an old guy and I got problems. And I'm lucky. I have some very, very good ones. When we're in the room, when we meet for the first time, I'll say, I really respect that you've got 14 years more college education than the average person. You've got all this time and dedication, and I know you really went through this, and I respect that. And that's why, I'm coming to talk to you and to get advice from you, is because, you're just really exceptional in that way. But there is only one person in this room that is board certified in my symptoms, and that's me. So we're going to consult on my case. And if you don't like it that way, I can find another doctor. And I've got several doctors that absolutely adore that, including, fortunately, my gastroenterologist, who saved my life.
It's interesting because I remember we have a history because, looking on the outside of this organization, you've been a part of it for a very long time. And watching...
Can't get rid of me.
You show up for me and there's Dawn. And watching you evolve, right? As a person, one with your health and the cirrhosis, but continuing to kind of just show up. And that was the one thing I think, I think back to 10 years ago, and coming in, I probably come, maybe once every 3 months, because, working in a different vertical of healthcare, whenever I was in the area, I'd stop in. But that word love, right? I'm sitting here, and as I listen to you talk, right, and I'll kind of, we go through the history of your life. That one fear of abandonment,
Yes.
right? And
The loss
hits.
of love.
That hits, because I was raised by a single mother.
Wow.
So you and I can connect on in that
Yeah.
perspective. But that word love, and seeing the place from which you came, right, and especially at that end where we're hopeless and we're isolated, alone. And then what we know to be the one thing that I think is here that really helps bring the dead back to life is the love.
Oh yeah.
The love and the
Oh,
support,
yes.
that we have no judgment, right? And accepting of just trying to meet people where they are. And the impact that it's had on myself, and I would say, would it be fair to say that it's had on you?
Oh, good Lord, yes. Ask my coach.
What are some of the what is your perspective on love, and what role has that played in your recovery? Because it seems like you have the ability to love yourself today.
Yeah, I do. I've always, been the polite Southern boy, so it's, I don't take compliments well. And if you don't take compliments well, you usually means you don't take them well from yourself either. You're always self-criticizing. But I do know that I behave differently than I used to, and I think that what I do comes out of love. I think that when I do and say things, I may be clumsy in how I do it, but I mean the best. But it always comes out of a genuine love. The person that attempted to murder me is somebody who, and this is just a few years ago, somebody I took in because they were homeless, they were hurt, they needed help, they were confused, and, just again, were helpless. I took them in and fed them, protected them, bought clothes, all kinds of things. Not for any personal gain, but just because I felt that people had done that for me. And it was a female, but there was no, and unfortunately there's been no allegations of any kind of like improper behavior on my part, or hers, or anything, because there simply wasn't. It was not what it was about. But she became extremely unstable, and one night I was asleep in my room, and she opened the door, came at me with a hammer, and tried to kill me, and told me what she was doing. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to send you to hell where you belong, and you're a devil. And she knew I'm a photographer and cinematographer, and she tried to blind me. If you've ever seen the movies where somebody puts their thumb on your eyes and tries to press as hard as they can, I still have two little darker places sort of down here somewhere on my eyes. That's from where the blood pooled up, and it's never cleared up. So she legitimately tried to kill me. I was able to get away from her, and so forth, and of course she was arrested, and I found out a little bit more about her history, and a wonderful thing that I heard was that this was the first offense of anything like that. I mean, okay, I thought that it was a mental thing, The point was, I was able to help influence the prosecution to reduce, to make sure that she got an easier sentence, that she could have gotten 20 years. But she got 10 years, and I got what I tried to get was the minimum that they would give her, which was 10 years suspended, you know, plus time served and stuff like that. But she had to move back to her town in the lower part of the country and not contact, and, you know, all this kind of stuff. So, well, I felt good about that I'd tried to help her. And not only that, but I kept her stuff I'd bought her and stuff she had brought herself, and kept it to her. 2 days after she was released from prison, she called me. She said, Don, you know, I hate to bother you, but I'm at the emergency room. And I said, oh, are you all right? You know, she said, no, I've just been here. They just let me out of jail and just dropped me here at the ER. And I've been sleeping in the lobby. I have nothing. I don't know what to do. I have no money, nowhere to go, no anything. She said, do you think I could stay with you? And I said, well, gee, you know, it might be kind of iffy. I said, first of all, yes, you can, but I think that might be a little questionable, you know. And she said, you're right, I shouldn't have asked. But anyway, I got her a room, got in touch with her family. They were going to come up in a couple of days. Made sure that she had food to eat. I actually drove her to her first parole meeting, you know, with her parole officer and stuff like that. And the thing I'm happiest about is that as I left her, I'd given her got all her clothes together and the stuff that was her properties and stuff, and gave them back to her. And I really loved it as we left for what would be the last time, most likely, you know, we'd ever see each other, was that she said, you know, I from what I did, I know I just went off, I was out of my mind. And she gave me a hug. And I gave her a hug back and wished her the well. I love that. Everybody said, you're crazy, stay away from her. She'll finish the job. That's what you do. If somebody tries to hurt you, what you do is to try to help them. And I love her for giving me the opportunity to go against what everybody told me to do and to follow my own heart and to say that is to show love. And I would never have done that had I not experienced the love and acceptance from everybody here. This real individual, actual looking you at the eyes love, not just you're another potential, you know, something for the scorecard. Oh, we got another one saved, you know. There's a reality here that is beyond book learning or slogans or anything. It's a real human contact that is when two people's hearts rub up against each other, you know. That's the kind of love that I feel here that I didn't feel in other places. It's the kind of love I think I've feared losing all my life. And I feel like at favor, that's what I've gotten back.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, is there anything
And
we
people
didn't
laugh
cover?
at my jokes a lot. You know, they get it. I get to try new ones.
Well,
You know?
Don, I want to thank you so much for your time.
Well,
And
thanks. It's been an
what an
honor.
incredible story. Thank you.
Well, thank you.